Hi, my name's Evelyn Torres, and today is March 9th, 2023. I will be going over some case connections. So the first one I picked was case 2, which is about a 16-year-old girl who was diagnosed with muscle glycogen phosphorylase deficiency. So I'm going to answer some of her questions. Her first question was explain how muscle glycogen is used normally. I'm not sure I quite understand the issue. So during exercise, your muscles use glucose as a source of energy, but because glucose is a limited resource, your body stores it in a form of glycogen in your muscles and liver so it can be used when needed. Muscle glycogen is used like fuel for your muscles and the body during exercise. Glyconeolysis is a metabolic pathway where glycogen is broken down into glucose 1 phosphate and glucose, which is like energy. When you start to exercise, your muscles will break down glycogen into glucose using the enzyme which is known as glycogen phosphorylase. When the muscles do not get their energy from glyconeolysis, then the person starts to experience muscle weakness or stiffness, which can be very painful. When there is a deficiency of muscle glycogen phosphorylase, it is also known as McArdle disease, which is a mutation in the genes. So if the phosphorylase cannot do its job, then the muscles aren't getting enough fuel. Her second question was she likes to take long walks with her friends, and will she still be able to do this? Exercise can trigger some symptoms with patients that have McArdle disease, like muscle weakness and stiffness, which is from the imbalance between the muscle energy. But yes, you can and you should still be able to take long walks with your friends, but you may need to be more careful about pacing yourself and taking breaks to avoid running out of energy. I would try to take it slow at first, supervise with your friends and not to work yourself. With muscle glycogen phosphorylase deficiency, you may run out of energy more quickly than your friends, but you can still participate in physical activities with proper management and precautions. Her third question was, do I need to get up at night to eat to maintain her blood glucose levels? There are two types. There are two places where glycogen is stored, which is in the liver and the skeletal muscle. Liver glycogen allows the liver to acknowledge when low blood glucose levels and release stored glucose in your blood. Meanwhile, in the skeletal muscle, glycogen lets the tissue to respond to aerobic metabolism by releasing glucose. So it's not really necessary for you to get up at night to eat in order to maintain blood glucose, since this deficiency is in the skeletal muscle and not in the liver. Muscle glycogen is never really used to help blood glucose. And her last question was, do I need to worry about producing excess lactate? And you don't have to worry about producing excess lactate during intense exercise because the blood lactate falls with patients with McArdle disease during exercise instead of its normal rise that you would generally see. Lactate levels with patients that have McArdle disease are low during exercise and after exercise. Right, and then the next case that I did pick out was case number 4, which is about a healthy 2-month-old female, and she was feeling jittery after several hours after breastfeeding. In the physical exam, there was liver, the edge of the liver was 4 centimeters below the right, a little bit bigger, and the blood glucose did increase after breastfeeding, but did not maintain blood glucose levels within the normal range during fasting. There's 4 options: a hereditary fructose intolerance, galactostoma, glycogen storage disease, and glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. So I'm going to go through each one and say which one's the correct answer and why the other ones are not the correct answer. So the first one, which is heredity fructose intolerance. So with heredity fructose intolerance, symptoms are very severe, vomiting and hypoglycemia. It can also lead to poor feeding and jaundice after consuming fructose or sucrose. Fructose intolerance is when there is an absence of the Attalus B, which cleaves a fructose 1-phosphate. According to the description, the baby has been feeling healthy for the past 2 months. Breast milk is primarily composed of lactose, which is glucose and galactose. From the lab results, the baby's not showing any issues with the liver values, so that can be jaundice only hypoglycemia. The baby's also not showing any vomiting symptoms, so answer A cannot be the diagnosis for the patient. The second one was galactosemia, which is a very serious disease, which is caused by galactose 1-phosphate uridyl-transferase deficiency. With galactosemia, infants are not able to metabolize galactose 1-phosphate and result in an injury to the liver, brain, and kidneys. After the first feeding, babies can show symptoms of vomiting, diarrhea, and jaundice. Since the symptoms are present after the first feeding, and with this patient, those symptoms were not there. So answer B cannot be the answer. The patient isn't showing any of these symptoms that correlate with galactosemia. The next one, answer C, which is glycogen storage disease. So with that disease, glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Oh wait, wrong one. Sorry. So with number C, letter C, glycogen storage disease, which is also known as GSD, is an inherited disorder where there is an abnormal type or quantity of glycogen in the tissues, and it changes the way the body uses and stores glycogen. Patients with GSD can experience low blood sugar, which is also known as hypoglycemia, enlarged liver due to the accumulation of glycogen, and high levels of lactate. Babies will start showing, around 3 to 4 months and have severe hypoglycemia from the fasting intolerance. The patient's blood glucose levels increase after breastfeeding but cannot maintain during fasting, shows that this patient is unable to use glycogen to maintain normal blood glucose levels. When epinephrine is administered, it causes an increase in blood lactate, which happens when there is not enough glucose available for energy production. Epinephrine stimulates glyconeolysis and gluconeogenesis to increase blood glucose levels, but in this case, for this patient, it did not result in an increase in blood glucose. So this patient does show an enlarged liver, and the lab results also show that the patient has hypoglycemia. The patient is also 2 to 3 months old, which is when the symptoms started to show. She was also given epinephrine, and it was observed that her blood glucose did not increase, just her lactate. So answer C would be the correct answer and most likely diagnosis for this patient, which is glycogen storage disease. The last one, which is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, is not the correct answer. So glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency is when there is no generating of the NADPH in the pentose phosphate pathway. Its role is to protect red blood cells from oxidative damage. Some symptoms from glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency is fever, dark urine, pale skin, and fatigue. But according to this patient's results, the patient is not presenting any of those symptoms, and no infections are shown in the laboratory results. So answer D cannot be the correct answer. So for case 4, C, glycogen storage disease would be the best answer that correlates with this patient's symptoms and lab results that were going on. And those were the two cases I picked. Thank you.